our democracy is at the center of scrutiny. And the world is watching us, and perhaps keeping tabs on how far-reaching some of the decisions or the activities of political players, stakeholders, and even the election management body, what they are doing, which will impact on the life of the citizen and our democracy and its sustenance. I'm being joined by the Executive Director of YAGA Africa and Electoral and Governance Advocate, Mr. Samson Itodo, who is live for us somewhere very cozy. Thank you so much, Mr. Itodo, for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everyone.
Appreciate it. We are entering into perhaps some of the most strategic month in this election cycle, at least going into the voting month, which is next year. But the month of May is the most decisive month, which is the month of the collegiate decision on who will be on the ballot and how the ballot will look like. And it's also going to be a very interesting next few weeks for a lot of political parties, PDP, ADC, to determine their leadership issues. Well, give us an understanding, Mr. Itodo. Do you think, I mean, you heard what Senator Abdul Ningi said. Look, Council suspend all electoral or political activities because of insecurity. Do you think that the stage is set for us to actively move into this next era?
Well, the stage is set. You have constitutional timelines that cannot be disobeyed. They have to be complied with. The law is very clear as to the time frame that you need to conduct elections, so we don't run into a constitutional crisis. INEC has released a timetable. We have an electoral law. As it is today in Nigeria, the political season has begun. Officially, primaries started based on the timelines on the 23rd. So the train has left the station. The bigger question is whether, one, the actors in the game will uphold the electoral law in the conduct of their primaries. Because democracy is not just won on election day, it is won and lost in the primaries. And our concerns from what we see in the build-up to the primaries is that this whole notion of consensus is being adopted by the hegemons in the party, and the decisions being made to a large extent are not a reflection, of the will of the people. Because democracy is built on several principles. The principles of participation, of transparency, of competition. When you think about the way that the parties are preparing for these primaries, it appears that they are going to default and not uphold these principles. When you look at what the courts is also, exhibiting in the build-up to this election, you've just referenced the fact that there are opposition parties that are riddled with all sorts of conflict, and they expect the court to resolve this dispute. I think that for parties that have internal leadership challenges, the court needs to rise to the occasion to resolve, some of these disputes, so we don't put a lot of pressure, on our political system. And as it stands today, there's so much pressure on our political system just because you have politicians who are not willing to play by the game by its rules, or you have, political actors and perhaps also the state making it very difficult and shrinking the political space, where opposition actors, whether at the national or at the state level, do not have the free space to run their campaigns. And you can't talk about the legitimacy of the 2027 elections if that election is devoid of competitive politics.
Is INEC ready?
Well, I think that question is left for INEC. But quite frankly, there are several issues and concerns that we have. The first is that INEC needs to publish the regulations and guidelines for the conduct of party primaries. The primaries, based on the timetable, started on the 23rd. As of this moment, INEC has not published, to the best of my knowledge, the regulations for the party primaries. The second is the budget has just been approved and just signed by the president. When will the funding for INEC be released to the Electoral Commission to commence, adequate preparations? There's a lot of activities happening at the same time. And for me, I think that INEC can do better with respect to its preparations, but quite frankly, in terms of the level of confidence, there are several activities within the electoral governance architecture that really leaves us with a lot of worries and concerns. When you look at the issue relating to CVR, Nigerians are complaining about lack of access to information, lack of understanding of this particular process. I think INEC needs to accelerate, and educate and engage citizens on this issue about voter registration. And so we are now at the thick of the elections, less than 8 months. And I think that there are several movements that we need to see on the part of different stakeholders. But the Commission still has some time to really inspire confidence on the part of Nigerians with respect to its preparations for the next elections.
On a final note, Mr. Itodo, what is your biggest fear going into this election as far as the activities leading up to the elections are concerned?
My biggest fear is that majority of Nigerians do not trust the credibility of our electoral process. And if they don't trust the credibility of our electoral process, then turnout will be very low. And if you've got turnout where minority are deciding for a majority, you cannot say that the election will be legitimate. But also, if you don't have a competitive elections in 2027, it makes mockery of the entire democratic process, because democracy is about competition. That's when you provide citizens with the opportunity to make decisions based on campaigns and debates, by different actors. Any attempt to shrink or make it difficult for other actors to effectively and freely campaign, then that whole concept that elections are organized in a free, fair, and credible manner will be undermined. And I just hope that, all the different actors, especially the ruling party, whether at the national or at the state level, or other actors, create a level playing field for other political parties, to engage in this process.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samson Itodo, Executive Director of Yaga Africa, there for us in TNT in the cozy island in the Caribbean.
So Trinidad is not cozy. I'm here for work, working with Electoral Commission.
Oh, you're in the Caribbean. I wish I was there working too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Well, but don't say it's cozy, because I've been working with the Electoral Commission.
Go listen to some very good soccer music and get some very good cuisines there. Very good atmosphere, very good environment. Enjoy while you work and get back home safely. Thank you so much, Samson, for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight on this Friday. Many thanks for watching. I'm Shewa Kimbale. God bless Nigeria.